Alright, this video is for a specific audience that I usually don't talk to directly. Artists. First of all, before we get too deep into anything, let's get something out of the way right now. Artists are the lifeblood of the fandom. No matter which way you look at it, the furry fandom does not exist without its artists. The entire premise of this fandom is the fantastical idea of being anthropomorphic animals, and artists take that idea and bring it to life. Whether it's a simple sketch or an entire fursuit, the foundation of this fandom is art and those who make art. Without them, this fandom doesn't really have a reason for existing. And this is true for all types of artists and creatives that make all sorts of pieces of art for this fandom. But today, I want to talk specifically to the more traditional artists, the drawers, the painters, maybe the ones that make fursuits, the ones that you go to commissions for your character or persona. On that note, I want to talk to y'all specifically about the commissioning process, because as important as you all are to the fandom as a whole, there are times when commissioning art in this fandom can be quite frustrating. Which may sound kind of weird at first. I'm getting art of my persona. What's so complicated about that? Well, normally nothing, but if I'm commissioning an artist, that means I'm paying for that art, or in other words, I'm interacting with a business as a customer. And in my experience, I found that a lot of artists tend to fall flat isn't on the art end, it's on the business end of things. And no matter how important art and artists are in the fandom, when you're running a business, there are still things that you have to think about to continue to gain new and retain happy customers. Otherwise, the great art that you might be providing really doesn't matter. Let me explain. This is always an interesting topic to talk about because it's not fun. The fun part of commissioning art is the art, taking on the challenge of drawing and painting for the artist and seeing your persona come alive as the commissioner. So taking that part out of it and treating it like buying any other consumer good makes it a lot less magical, but doesn't make it any less real. Because at the end of the day, that's what's really happening. Like I said at the top, I'm a customer interacting with an artist who is running a business. And no matter what you're selling, whether it's this chair or this fursuit, part of what goes into making the decision of who to buy things from is customer service. Now, I know all of you who work in retail are probably cringing after hearing those two words, and trust me, I get it. My first job was selling Wi-Fi routers to boomers. And I'm also not one of those, the customer is always right people either. I've been wrong as a customer many times. But that doesn't interact the fact that when I'm interacting with the business, the journey of getting whatever good I'm paying for is just as, and in some cases, even more important than the destination of getting whatever I paid for, if that metaphor makes sense. In fact, I've gone out of my way to wait longer, receive a worse end product, or pay more because the customer service is so good. In many cases, I actually remember that more than whatever I bought from that business. And that line of thinking goes with anything I buy, including commissioning artists in the fandom. I'm sure anyone who gets art in this fandom frequently would say the same thing. Part of the commissioning process is interacting with the artist who is making the art. And unfortunately, the customer service from a lot of artists in this fandom isn't all that great. I think we've all heard horror stories of bad experiences with artists in this fandom, where people pay an exorbitant amount of money for something and either get a horrible product in return, or even worse, don't get anything at all. I'm sure everyone either has a story or knows someone who has a story where they straight up did not get what they paid for. I know I do. Now, to be fair, that's on the extreme end of things. Customer service is holistic in that it covers everything from the initial commission to delivering the final product. And even if you get what you pay for, the experience of waiting for that might not have been enjoyable either. For instance, I paid for art commissions where I didn't hear anything from the artist until I was sent the final art piece. I can't say I was scammed, I got what I paid for, but it wasn't enjoyable being in the dark for the entire process, and I haven't gone back to that artist since. It's the same thing with fursuits. I've had multiple friends commission a suit and hear nothing and have nothing happen until they started threatening legal action, and only then was any progress made with their commission. And sure, they may have ended up getting a fursuit, they got what they paid for, but the journey of getting there almost ruins the end product in and of itself. Now, I don't just want to sit back here and complain about how artists treat commissioners in this fandom, because statistically, most artists do a good enough job at this. It's just that in this fandom, a fandom where art is one of the most common goods that is sold, it stings just a little bit more when the process of getting what we paid for is painful. In addition, because we treat artists with such high regard in this fandom, I literally called them the lifeblood of this fandom at the beginning, we're sometimes afraid to criticize them and their business practices because they are so crucial to the fandom's existence. I mean, if you think about it, I'm not sitting here making this video, I'm probably not a furry without them. But there is definitely a middle ground between outright flaming artists and getting stepped on by them, and not in the fun way. And I think there is a lot of constructive criticism that we as commissioners can provide to artists to make the experience a lot more enjoyable throughout. And honestly, the biggest pieces of advice that I can give aren't really all that big in the first place. They are a lot of little things that add up to a great business experience on top of getting some awesome art at the end of it. But before we get too far into that, I want to talk about something that I'm trying to provide my best customer service for myself. I want to take this time to thank the sponsor for today's video, you. Yes, all of you who support this channel through Patreon. If you enjoy the videos I make here and on other social media platforms, then Patreon is the best way to support me directly to help make those videos even better. That way I can continue to build this channel without having to take on random corporate sponsors that, let's be honest, none of you would end up using anyway. And this isn't one of those general support Patreons either. No, you actually get stuff for signing up. First of all, you get to see all of my videos, both short and long form, a week in advance. So if you sign up, you can actually see the videos that everyone else can only see next week, right now. You can also get a special role in my Discord where you can hang out with me and other patron members. And finally, you get exclusive long form videos from me every Monday that are a lot more open, honest, and unscripted, allowing me to talk about things that might not fit the general channel here, if you know what I mean. You can check all of that out and join at patreon.com/FinnThePanther and be a part of the membership that helps make these videos the best furry edutainment videos that we can make. Thank you all for joining. Now let's get back to talking about how artists can make the commissioning experience that much better for everyone. I think a lot of people look at this idea of customer service and think that as a business, every customer has to be completely pampered each and every time they interact with you. And while some companies do in fact do a pretty good job with that, the bar for having a good customer experience is usually a lot lower, even when it comes to commissioning artists in this fandom. In fact, one thing that customers who commission art love is something that is actually designed for you as an artist to not set unrealistic expectations. It's to set and enforce your commission boundaries. These are all things that you outline in your terms of service, and being clear, detailed, and honest about them, and being ready to answer any questions that commissioners have about them too. More often than not, most of the problems that I see when it comes to artists in this fandom can be fixed by having a clear TOS that both I as a commissioner and you as an artist have to adhere to. Establishing clear expectations on things like your artistic process, your time to completion, how you want to get paid, your revision policy, your refund policy, your usage rights. When all of that is clear and in writing, then there's no confusion when either side breaks part of that promise. And look, I get that things come up in real life that might change your plans, but remember, you are running a business and the commissioner shouldn't be on the hook for things out of their control. So to handle that, you can put contingency plans in writing in your TOS that we as commissioners can look at and decide if we want to take the risk of or not. Seeing things like what you do if you get sick or injured and what I as a commissioner can have in return for an unexpected delay in service is so relieving. And hey, it's your business. You can do whatever you want with those plans, but just tell us what they are before we have to find out the hard way. And while I'm coming at this idea from the commissioner's standpoint, the TOS goes both ways. So if I'm going to hold you to the document, make sure you hold me to it as well. Like I said, the customer is not always right. And if we start to go out of bounds or break our side of the agreement, you are under no obligation to keep your side until we get back in line. So to start, making an enforceable TOS and setting clear expectations is crucial to a good customer experience. And there will be a lot fewer questions and ambiguity about what's going on when you also establish clear communication practices. Again, you're running a business. You're not a distant friend that can get back to us when you can. Being prompt and detailed in your responses to any inquiries is part of bringing us along of the journey of our commission. Now, a lot of questions that we may have, you might be able to get ahead of, like confirming any major key decisions about our commissions before we even ask about them, which starts that dialogue before anything is set in stone. You can also do things like set up a Trello board that walks our commission along the path to completion, so we don't have to bother you about where our commission is. But if we do have any other questions, my expectation as a commissioner is that they are answered promptly and completely. Now, if that sounds stressful and if you as an artist don't want to be bothered at any time during the day with questions from us commissioners, you don't have to be. You can always set business hours for yourself, so you're only responsible for getting back to customers during certain times of the day. Heck, you can even set up communication hours within those business hours, so we know that if we message you outside of those hours, we shouldn't expect a response until the next day. And on top of all this, with your communication, there is a level of professionalism that is greatly appreciated. Now, I'll admit, this gets subjective very quickly, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Some people like to be talked to like a peer, and some prefer professional business speak throughout the entire process. Personally, I like a little bit of both. Professionalism towards me as a customer is a big green flag, but if I'm a repeat customer, being a bit more casual down to even talking to me as a friend is fine, since at this point, I'm familiar with you and your work. But again, that's up to you, and everyone is going to have a different answer about that, so don't stress about it too much. It's just a nice touch for me personally. Though, with that thought in mind, one thing you can do to really make the commissioning experience memorable is to make small but meaningful value adds when you can. What is a value add? Well, in most cases, it's something that you add on top of what we paid for as a little gift for choosing you to commission. Interestingly enough, furry merch companies that sell physical goods are great at this. When you buy a t-shirt or a hoodie from one of them, they will usually add some stickers to the packaging along with the clothes that you ordered. Those were free of charge and honestly not a big deal, but they're a small thing that makes us go, huh, that was nice of them to add when we open our packages. And you could do the same thing as artists. Again, it doesn't have to be anything big, but if there's room to add something small in your finished product that adds value to the overall product, that is always nice to see. And trust me, we remember it too. For example, this sticker, one of the most popular ones that I give out at cons, was not part of the original commission for the rest of my stickers, but the artist, Russ, threw it in there as a thank you. I didn't ask for that, but because it was such a value add, I don't even bother looking anywhere else to get more stickers done. He gained a loyal customer out of me for that one small act, so shout out to Russ. And again, it's up to you how you want to implement these small value adds. You can only give them to big tippers, you can add something special for those who commission you in person at a con. It can be anything really, just trust me, we really appreciate it. Now, there are a lot of other smaller things that I could have gone into when it comes to good customer service, but I realized while I was writing the script for this video that the rest of them basically all come back to these three main ideas. Being clear and consistent with your terms of service, being responsible and thorough communicators, and adding small value adds are really all you need to give us as commissioners a good, if not a great, customer experience. Also, in most cases, we're not out to get you either. We would love for everything to go smoothly and take that positive experience and share it with others. We'd much rather brag about you in a good way than have to write a whole doc about how we were scammed by you. Because we as commissioners know that without you all as artists, we have no real purpose in this fandom, and we want to take as many opportunities as we can reasonably afford to put money back into the furry economy and get cool pieces of our personas coming to life in return. But the art is one thing, the customer service is another, and when we can confidently say that you have both of those experiences down, that is when you really start to stand out as an artist in this fandom. All right, that's it for this one. Thank you for watching. Be sure to join the Discord and become a member of the Patreon if you like videos like these. Thanks so much for checking those out, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.